Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Just want to
Thank
remind
you, Lonnie.
I just want to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded. As currently we do not have a quorum. We won't be taking any votes, whether they'd be roll call votes if we happen to reach the quorum, and due to it's a remote meeting. So with that being said, I'll do a quick attendance of who is here. Bill Lambertino, aye. Ann,
In Mazar, aye.
Lonnie,
Lonnie Tenio, aye.
and Fran. Oh, you're on. Your speaker's
Frank,
not
you're
on.
muted.
Frank DeHero, aye.
All right, thanks, Frank. All right, so with that, I'll turn it over to Gabe, and we'll talk about these. I guess apparently the agenda is site plan review tonight.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So tonight we're going to start our conversation on Article 4, which is site plan review. I'm sorry Jane isn't here tonight. She's under the weather, so she might log in. I told her to stay off. If she was going to log in and listen, I told her, do what you got to do. But tonight we're going to look at site plan review. So Jane, Jack, Dylan, and I have reviewed the Article 4. We have a few different documents we could look at tonight. I'd like to get a sense of do people want to start with just the existing site plan review, and or do we want to talk about like how we're kind of interested in reorganizing it? Because I don't know who here has looked at the document yet, but
I looked at it. Once again, and let's just begin where we started. We just started with getting into prohibitive uses and stuff like that, and obviously 301. And at the last meeting, I think we discussed that site plan review needed to be dealt with before we could complete those items. So just getting everybody up to speed here. I mean, I went through ours, and I noted looked at all the notes. There are some I agree with, some I don't, but we can discuss it as a group. But I just think, I particularly, and West Brookfield wasn't the only town I looked at. I looked at towns like even ones surrounding us, like Upton and Hopedale, and I gotta be honest with you, ours is the biggest site plan review bylaw that I've seen. It's like,
yeah, it's 10
like
9 or 10 pages, and most other towns are maybe 5 pages.
I mean, site plan review's always been a question in the minds of the courts, anyways, whether it's actually holds water or not. I think us making it more difficult. I don't know. I'll let everybody speak to it. I'm not going to. I mean, I deal with it. I don't have a problem with the current. It just doesn't make it easy for our constituents out there to go in and usurp this bylaw. I think, we need to take a look at it. And I don't care whose it is. There are a lot of good examples out there. I think I looked at Holden's. Theirs was, and like I said, I always look at like Mendon's and Upton's, and because they're kind of regional partners. And like I said, there's a lot less constringent as ours is for the requirements.
Jack, do you want to chime in? You're muted.
Just Bill's right on about one thing is that the court, Chapter 48 zoning statute does not recognize or acknowledge site plan review, but the courts have. And I know that the legislature has tried to legitimize it, and it never goes past conference committee or wherever it goes. But I will say this, Bill, coming from the outside, it operates okay. I think the bylaw needs some work and reorganization, but the way you guys run it is really what every town does, more or less. Some less, some more. So that's the good news, I think.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when I first started,
Bill, we
just
got
quick,
Matt just jumped on.
oh, man, thank God.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna announce that, Matt, if you just want to, announce your attendance, that'd be great.
Matt Clark, present.
Okay, now we have a quorum.
Excellent.
So, do we want to address the elephant in the room, the 42, minutes we
One
get to
second.
approve?
Hold on one sec. I can pull them up.
I hope you bundle them.
I am.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to announce one each individually. If you could announce just the dates real quickly, Lonnie,
Yeah, hang
that'd
on.
be great.
All right. So we have, they're not going to be in order.
That's fine.
But I make a motion to approve the minutes from October 15th, 2024, October 30th, 2024, maybe they are in order, November 12th, 2024, January 7th, 2025, January 21st, 2025, February 4th, 2025,
That should be one at the end of September.
February 18th, 2025, September 17th, 2024, and October 1st, 2024. Those are all the ones we have.
Okay, do I have a second?
Matt Clark, second.
And all those in favor?
Tenio, aye.
Clark, aye.
Ambrosino, aye.
Mazar, I.
Nero, I.
All right, Lonnie, if you could handle making sure those get posted on the site, that'll be great.
So, a quick question on that.
Yeah.
Dylan, is that something that you handle for us?
It's not something I handle right now. I think I might have access to the page to do it.
Okay, I'll forward them to you and Dan and
Yeah.
Ellen, and
Dan can at least give me the access if I need it.
Okay, yeah, I personally
I
don't
think,
have it.
yeah, Ellen definitely has access. Dan certainly does, but
Yeah, I
they can
think
give it to me
Ellen-
so that I can just do it.
Yeah, I think Ellen was doing some of our postings.
I think Ellen might have been, but yeah, if she wants me to do that, she can just give me access and I can take it over.
That'll be great.
All right, I will check out now. Thank you.
Thank
Everybody
you
good,
for
right?
showing up, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, so back to where we were. Dealing with this site plan review. And you know what? I'll take anyone's opinion on what they think we should do to move forward. Should we scrap, start over? Or, like I said, it really doesn't change anything. Yeah, it really doesn't change anything on how the planning board manages it. I'm well aware of the site plan review, so I know how to administer a site plan review. So I'm not concerned with that. And if you guys think keeping this one and altering it is a better process, I don't think it's a terrible bylaw. I think it's just got a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, I mean, the main problem that we found is that it establishes administrative site plan review and like vanilla site plan review. And like the first thing is it's not super clear. You have to really read deeply to understand. You have to really read the whole bylaw to understand what to go for and what the process is. Um,
Yeah, I like
Also-
how West Brookfield declares,
Yeah.
they kind of
Yeah, and
declare it right at the beginning, and, you know, they have exemptions for site plan review, but then they,
Yeah.
you know, they have two different types of site plans.
Yeah,
a
they have
minor
major
site
and
plan review.
minor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
very
so-
confusing right now. Yeah.
That's probably the main problem. The other thing is, I think the committee needs to have it, and I don't think we need to totally get rid of this, especially if politically that's unfeasible. But I think the other thing is we need to know if we think the thresholds to get from administrative to, let's just say, major site plan review are good or well established. And then also for administrative, we need to establish what are the application standards that we want people to follow, because I don't think there's anything necessarily bad about the bylaw from like those requirements. It's all stuff that's good, but it's, from my position, it's not clear what's required for it. What's the difference between the application requirements for administrative and major, and also it's up for discussion. Like, what do we want to be requiring for a minor site plan review or an administrative site plan review?
You know,
Um,
we spent a lot of time on this the other day.
Mhm.
In my opinion, the administrative site plan review is not needed. I mean, Dylan likes to say, and I think she's technically right, anything that's built more than a single family house has to go through site plan review, and that's kind of crazy. I think
Well, they
I
do-
didn't look
they
at
do-
Brookfields, but
Yeah,
I
we-
think either one site plan review with thresholds or a minor and major, either one, it works fine. I've used both before.
well, I think, we do disclose, right in B, that any impervious area over 1,000 square feet and any, land disturbance greater than 1 acre. But that kind of leaves it really broad, you know.
Well, the 1 acre disturbance now, it probably happened after the site plan was written, is you have stormwater bylaw that
Right.
kicks in. So
Right.
any disturbance over an acre has to come to the planning board anyway.
Right.
So that I didn't mind. It's
Yeah,
just,
I
I
don't
think
know.
there's language in there that if you build anything, it has to come in front of you.
Yeah.
Also, anything with a special permit too. So,
Well, I
and
actually had-
that wasn't happening.
I actually had a request from there's a church up on Harrison Drive, that wants to expand their parking lot. And I explained to them, if it's gonna be over 1,000 square feet, then you're gonna have to come before the planning board for, basically for stormwater management. I mean, that's basically why you would require it over 1,000 square feet of impervious area. But so it does work and I basically told him if it's under 1,000 square feet, then he doesn't need to come before the board. But
Unless he triggers the parking spaces, right?
yeah, that's a good question. Do we have a maximum parking space? I haven't read the parking bylaw in a while. I wrote it like 10 years ago.
Maybe Gabe, if you could, I can't even remember everything we talked about, but
Share the
Doc-
document.
yeah, kind of the highlights or lowlights, whichever way you
Yeah.
want to put it.
All right, why don't we, just for a matter of time, why don't we, get working on them and taking a look
Yeah.
at some of these items?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm open to any approach, but I think it would be helpful to get from the rest of the committee kind of a consensus on how you want us to move forward with this. So, okay, applicability, the following types of activities, structured and uses require site plan review by the planning board, except to the extent they are used for or accessory to a residential single-family dwelling. 1, any new building or structure. 2, any addition or alteration to an existing building. with an increase in 500 square feet or more of floor area. 3, any addition or alteration that results in 1,000 square feet or more of impervious surface. 4, any change in the existing use of land, building, or structure to a non-single family residential use, which we discussed was potentially problematic because you could see requiring I could see an argument that this could require site plan review for, let's say you wanted to switch a storefront from like a restaurant to a retail store. Because it's just too any.
I think that applies. Obviously, the change of use would dramatically affect the site plan review. If you have a small retail store that people are running in and out of, and it suddenly changes to a restaurant that might have, 40 cars, I think the change of use is going to apply to a site plan review. I mean, for traffic purposes,
Lonnie?
I think Lonnie's got
You're
his
muted.
hand up. He can weigh in.
Yeah,
here.
but so let's just use that example real quick. So let's just say that, everything in Hood Plaza was small retail, and then all of a sudden a big restaurant wants to go in there. How does that invoke site plan review because the tenant's different now?
It would. Why, if
Yeah,
you follow the letter of the law. I
The
mean, I
use
think
will.
these are some of the, in my
But
opinion, the
what is
lowlights.
but what is the use limitations of the Hood Plaza, because there's restaurants in there now.
Right.
Yeah,
Or say Dean Bank left and a flower shop went in. I mean, are we making them go through site plan review? It's crazy, I think.
And which site plan review?
Right.
Administrative?
Well,
or
that
the full
one
thing?
we'll deal with, I think. But the
Well, I
ones
think
that
that's what we
trouble
need
me
to-
are any new building.
Any new
Doesn't
building.
matter what it is.
Shed.
And then the change of use is a little troublesome.
Variance.
Well, I'll tell you what happens, and we've had this happen, and this becomes the problem. If at time of change of use, you don't at least take a look at, the parking areas, the safety lanes, we actually had a couple situations where somebody just opened up and there was no oversight on the traffic pattern, and they actually had, when you go through site plan review now, there needs to be a boundary at the road edge. There needs to be something that sets the parking lot apart from the road edge. In this case, that didn't occur, and people are actually exiting vehicles out onto the street. So that was something that obviously needed to go to site plan review for a review of the safety. That would be my only concern. I mean, it's in a town like Mendon, that's not going to be a big deal. So I'm not hung up on having to do that. So, what
Dylan?
everybody thinks is the right way.
This implies to me that there are no yeses in the use table. Because if we're saying any new building or any change in the use, why would it be as of right? No one would know to come to site plan review section of the bylaw to say, oh, this used to be a bank and now I'm putting in my psychiatric, therapy thing here. It's changing the use of the land, the building or structure, but in the use table it says why, just guessing, but it shouldn't be a Y then. It should be SPR. Every time it says Y.
Jack and then Lonnie.
I hear you, Dylan, but site plan review is as of right. I mean, it's
Right, but it
as
shouldn't
of
say
right
Y.
use.
It
So
needs to
that
say
should be a
SPR then.
Y or an SPR, which
The only
implies
Y
a
is
Y.
single family home.
Pardon me?
The only yes on the use table should be single family home then.
I disagree because site plan review is not a special permit. It's
No,
an as of
SPR.
right
We should
use.
be putting SPR though. We should not be
That's
saying
fine.
yes.
I, it's a legal technicality, I think.
I'm just
But
saying there's been
but
so many
beyond
times
that,
that
I
people
think
have not
what might,
noticed.
but I think, Bill, to address Bill's concerns, I think some of that's legitimate. A lot of towns I've worked in, Bill, they don't do it as a change of a particular use, but they do of the amount of parking that's required for the new use.
Well, I get it.
And if that exceeds something, and I don't know
Mhm.
what that would be, that might trigger site plan review. But a
Yeah,
site plan
I mean,
review is not, you can't say no to a site plan review. So it's an allowed use. It just
Yeah.
gets reasonably regulated.
well, I think it just looks at, um, like, I mean, site plan review is very rarely denied. I think it just looks at safety
Yeah.
and maybe, stormwater management concerns. But other than that, like, I'll give you a perfect example. There's a house down on Route 16, right across from, George's Seafood. That it's atrocious. They never came to planning to open that body shop up again. It was a body shop years ago, but closed
Oh, right.
down. Now we got an atrocious mess there. We got people backing out into the street because there's no parking in the place. The place is loading up with cars. Has anybody approved the amount of cars in this place? Has anybody looked at this use? And the answer to that is no. They haven't been before us. And this situation is out of control. I know, I live right around the corner. I drive by it all the time. We actually had one person the other day back out into the street to let another person back out. So we have both lanes of traffic stopped because these people are backing out of this driveway. And they're way over capacity as far as vehicles that we would generally allow in a site that size. They must have 25 vehicles there. I mean, it's ridiculous. And that's, I think, the situation that we run into. I'm not saying overregulate this because generally we don't, site plan review isn't difficult to get through. I mean, there's not a lot of restriction, we're not trying to overmanage. When we wrote this originally, that was one thing we stayed away from, but I'll let Dylan speak. She's got a hand up.
Wait, Lonnie can go first.
Oh,
Lonnie's hands
Lonnie.
up for a while.
Yeah, sorry. So that is a perfect example of A, how do we know when the uses are changing, right? B, who is policing the uses of changing? And can we even do anything about it? Because you just said we can't do anything about this auto body shop that's on Route 16. So
Well, the planning board can't. We don't have the authority. The only ones
who
that have
does?
the authority is zoning
The building
enforcement.
commissioner.
Yeah, zoning enforcement is actually the title. And right now he's prescribed the title. So, and I don't step out of my bounds. I've got a territory to cover. John has his territory to cover. I don't go into that lane. He doesn't come into mine.
If somebody doesn't say anything, it would say you act like we. If somebody doesn't tell him, is he expected to drive through town and inspect every piece of
No,
property?
I guess it would mostly be triggered by a neighbor. We've obviously seen that occurrence. We saw it up on Level Street. Neighbors trigger a lot of this going on. If a neighbor doesn't complain, then you're right, Lonnie, it gets overlooked. And like I said, I'm not the zoning police. I don't drive around town. I just happened on this particular one because it's near me. And I was in that traffic stop the other day with one car pulling over to one lane and the other car backing out into the other lane. And I'm like, this is freaking crazy. Someone's going to get killed. But maybe we should send John a notification that he ought to look into that residence and find out what the hell is going on. You know, we did the same thing down the street where they loaded up all those dumpsters that we finally got them to remove. You know,
No, I
I
know.
mean,
I know, but even in that sense, they didn't do exactly what was asked of them. So I don't know.
well, I mean, I don't know
This is what this is what it comes down to. If you're a legit developer and you want to do things the right way and be friendly with the town, you're going to go through the process that is needed. That's in the bylaws, right? So I think that maybe we shouldn't get too hung up on what to do here, but maybe make this a little bit more user friendly if we think that it's not user friendly, but still and be able to have. We want to be able to have that. So I mean, essentially, at the end of the day, right? What you've approved, the project that you approved for us, I could just go and do whatever I wanted over there at the end of the day, right? I mean,
well, once again, most of these in any town, um, piece of land I owned down in Dennis, and when he cleared the lot, got a complaint from the neighbor that, because the half of the property was in the 100-foot setback from you know, the water pond that I had out back. So we're in the 100-foot buffer, but under the original special permit, because the guy who sold me the property built the entire cul-de-sac. Under the original special permit for the cul-de-sac, it authorized working within, you couldn't put a structure on it, but you could work within the setback. So he lost. But I mean, that's how things get adjudicated, I guess, is that it takes a neighbor's complaint to make it happen. I mean, that's what happened with the dumpsters. The guy out back complained, and we looked at it and said, he's right. And
Dylan, do you want to? Sorry.
Yeah, just two or three things here. I just want to back up and say I don't want it to come across as that I don't want site plan reviews. I do want these to happen. I just don't think it's happening, and it's not clear when it should happen to a lot of people. Like, it took me a year of working here to know that any use or structure that requires a special permit or variance also needs a site plan review. We have an application that says site plan review or special permit, and you check off one of them. So that wasn't happening. We were advertising as special permit, and the decision said special permit, not special permit site plan review. I just think that needs to happen if we want that to happen, which is why
Yeah,
I'm talking about the use table. You
we've
know,
always run them concurrently.
yeah,
and
but
any
it's
of
not
the
concurrent if we don't
decisions-
write it down as like happening.
Yeah, any of the
you know?
decisions I wrote signified both site plan and special permit, but
We've
but you're
held a
right.
lot
I
of
mean,
hearings, yeah,
this is a difficult bylaw to get through if you're a developer, or let's say you're not a developer, deals in town all the time, and or you're just a person who
I'm
wants,
just a person
like
yeah.
I
who's
put up
building a
my-
shed.
Yeah, I put up my I general contracted my own building up on the corner. And you know, obviously I was familiar with the site plan review process, and fortunately I had a good friend who was a civil engineer who handled a lot of it for me. But we got through the site plan process, and I actually needed a variance also, and we were able to manage the process. But even he said that because he didn't normally do work in town, he said that Pat Doherty said that our site plan review was overburdening, and you know, we may want to consider. You know, I think there is a lot in here. We put a lot regarding, you know, I mean, we address everything, traffic, you know, and some of those are great, but they address it in West Brookfield, but they do it in about a half a page or a page less than we do it in. You know, and I just think maybe there's a happy medium somewhere.
Mhm.
you know?
So let's continue. So I think there's clearly a lot we can talk about with this. Let's keep looking at the bylaw as it is.
Yeah,
And I think what might be helpful is, I mean, I don't know how late people want to stay tonight, but
Not
yeah, not late. So let's maybe in 20 at 7, if anyone has any strong feelings about how to move forward with this. So
Gabe, I'm going to suggest let's try to get through it. And
Yeah.
I hear what Bill's saying. I hear certainly
Yeah.
what Lonnie's saying. Maybe we can take a hack at this and bring it back after listening to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go through it quickly, Gabe, here, so we can make
Yeah.
some headway.
So yeah, that's kind of the first discussion, is what do we want to require which for, site plan or administrative for what uses. This is an application thing that Dylan highlighted, where, wait, Dylan, just talk through just the logistical concern with how this is
so
worded.
We've just had some issues with this. I assume this is before you had any staff. The planning board is supposed to see the submission of the application at a meeting, and then we schedule the actual hearing after that, which causes issues because if we have the meeting on Monday and we accept that application, we can't have the hearing in 2 weeks because we need 3 weeks to get into the newspaper. So that means you're skipping 2 weeks. You're going to 4 weeks now. And hopefully we have a meeting on that date. If it's a long month, we don't have a meeting on that date and they'll have to wait another week. So it could be 5-6 weeks before they're able to even start their hearing if we wait for the planning board to accept an application.
Yeah, I don't have that's how Mendon's always done it. They accepted the plan at a planning board meeting, and then they scheduled the public hearing on that date. I don't think, and I think that is more of the reason why we do set the public hearing date within the meeting is the fact that you obviously want to make sure that there are enough board members there to attend to but if we want to now manage that in a more of an administrative way, send it out in an email because we don't need to vote on a public hearing date.
Right. I can always say, hey,
nowadays,
they're regularly scheduled meetings. If you're not going to be there, let me know a few weeks in advance. I tell you, hey, we have a hearing coming up.
Nowadays, that staff can handle this very easily.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that. We can make that change.
Yeah, that'll get people through the process a lot faster.
I think that's a prudent change, and I'm all for speeding up the permitting process.
I just feel so bad sometimes. Yeah.
As you notice, I don't like to. I put a lot of pressure on the applicant not to keep carrying things over to get them done, because I'm not someone who likes to have an application out there for 3 months. I like to get them wrapped up as soon as we can. Let's address all the issues and get it finished. So I think they'll move that, and they'll give the board an opportunity to look at it before the meeting too.
Cool. Just moving on. Something else we want to do is remove references to business days in the bylaw. As this is written, taking in, first of all, 21 is not a standard week. It doesn't translate to standard business weeks. You're looking at 4 weeks and 1 day of business days. And then also with state holidays, with town hall being closed on Fridays, the definition of business day it's inconsistent, and to follow this to the letter of the law, you would, depending on the month, you could have very different timelines from looking at the calendar week. We think it would be a more straightforward approach.
Especially because we don't work on Fridays as well. Town hall's closed, so it gets weird. Does Friday count or not? We don't know.
Yeah. So just the idea is that we remove references to business days, and just if we want it to be 30 days or 21 days or whatever, but just that logistically making it business days makes following it like a little bit, it makes it more complicated for the applicant and for staff.
Well, yeah, and I don't agree. In the past, we've had a process that delayed all types of permits. I mean, it's got to go up to the assessor's office for taxes or tax office, make sure taxes are paid. Then it makes its way back to planning. In my opinion, that is stuff at this day and age we should have answers to within a day. It shouldn't take a butters list, taxes. We should be able to get those answers in a day. It should not take, before it was taking weeks. I had to put a stop to that. I was like, oh, this is crazy. Weeks ain't happening. So I don't have an issue with changing that to 21 days.
Okay.
I think the Mendon should be able to meet its obligation in 21 days, no problem.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, because
I
we
mean,
were
that's
just talking.
That's just to refer to planning. That's not
Yeah.
even, I mean, they should be able to handle that.
Yeah. Because we were just thinking, like, if you look at a calendar, I could look at a calendar and tell you what 21 days is from now in 2 seconds. I would have to go and count. Okay,
Yeah.
don't count the Fridays or whatever. Don't count, Columbus Day or whatever.
Yeah.
So we have an incomplete sentence here. We're just going to reference the state law that it seemed the appeal of any administrative site plan review decision of the planning board shall be in no period, nothing. So I think it's in accordance with whatever the state law is, which we'll figure out how to word that. Something else is that for this administrative review for as of right uses and structures, we're going to have to eliminate language that allows the board to deny it, because currently under state law, you are not allowed to deny that's case law. You can't deny a by right use. So if you notice in the way that I did like the reorganized approach, which I think we're going to work off of for if we take more edits to this, we eliminate that and just make it clear that the two outcomes for an administrative site plan review, because those are applying to by right uses, is either approval or approval with conditions. If it's getting denied because it's not actually a by right use, in my opinion, that should be nipped in the bud as soon as the planning department sees the application or planning board sets the hearing. It should be clear that they did the wrong application and need to redo it. So yeah, recommend separating the final action. We in the reorganized approach, we make administrative and regular site plan review 2 separate subsections. So a number of these sections are going to get split up, and we tried to kind of identify what's what. And then I'm just going to skip ahead to make sure. Yeah, so the last major thing we need to talk about is for the application materials under H. So we are going to be splitting that up between administrative and standard site plan review. So that's like a subsection of each of those subsections. I guess the question is what are we requiring for what has kind of been the de facto approach for application requirements for administrative site plan review? And what do we want to actually require for that? Because I don't think any of this, like Bill said, I think this could be simplified, but I don't think that the actual substance of what we're requiring is that out of control or anything. It's just really says it in 10 times as many words in some cases as what it could be. But for administrative site plan review to make it substantially easier than site plan review, I guess the question is, what do we actually want to require for that? So for me, I was kind of trying to shake out what I thought would be appropriate for which. For me, you have these 5, I think, 6, 1I through VI, which basically has a site plan, elevation plans, an isometric line drawing, on the site plan. This plan to prevent pollution, basically a water pollution management plan, which is like stormwater, a grading plan, and then copies of the permits. For me, and then that seems like for me that feels like the natural cutoff point, because then right after you have 7, which is for large developments, those exceeding 10,000 square feet. So at that point, you're looking at, that should be a special permit. But I'm just curious because it's not clear in the bylaw what has been required for which in practice.
Since I've been here, we haven't done it.
Okay.
I haven't done it other than, Bill, we brought a couple things to you and you've waived site
We've
plan
waived it.
review.
Right.
Yeah, a couple
Could you-
small,
could-
yeah, a couple small items we've waived site plan review on that didn't warrant,
You know,
site plan review.
I guess I've been coming from the point of view that administrative site plan review should not be as cumbersome as
No, it shouldn't require.
a large
obviously-
one.
Yeah,
and-
obviously it shouldn't require all this stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
is it-
asking a lot for administrative. Now, the board at any time could determine, okay, no, this is too much. You need to go to full site plan review. So I think,
It'd be nice to outline it so we don't. even
yeah,
have to
maybe
get to
we
that
can
point.
tone this down a little bit. But I had a question, Gabe, before this one, if you could
Yes.
scroll up.
Yeah.
And Dylan will help me on this because she specializes in picking these things out. This one, for all uses and structures that are not permitted as of right. I guess that means for special permits?
Yeah,
Yeah.
If it's not as right, you can't do it.
Right, you're doing it because it requires a special permit.
So we need
which
to
is one of
change
the
that
items.
language, that's
I
all.
just changed it to say structures that need a special permit, or make a section that is specific for site plan reviews that happen because of
Yeah,
a special
okay.
permit.
Yep, got it.
Yeah,
That makes sense. Yep.
and looking at this, we're gonna definitely have to differentiate administrative review from actual site plan review.
Mhm.
Because asking someone, who's got a low impact, business, and I'll use, one of the ones that, we approved a, site plan, review for, what do you call them? Not nursery, but, where to take care of children, whatever.
Daycare?
Daycare, yes. Approved one, sorry, I was ain't fought. But, that was one that they were upgrading. It was minimal impact. They added like 5 kids. Doesn't require site plan review. Required a quick administrative review, and in which we just made
Yeah,
sure that in compliance and
Yeah, and I think the board can make a judgment. Hey, yeah, you came in here hoping for administrative, but this has got an impact and we need to bump this up or not.
yeah, and I think, I mean, the board's smart enough to know when it goes from an administrative to full-blown site plan review.
Yeah.
I mean, all you have to do is look at lists of some of the requirements are required now. These, I would almost say the whole submission material section is based on a full site plan review.
Yeah, we
Um,
can stream this down, Bill.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And certainly for administrative review, if it's seriously low impact, I don't care if it's a hand sketch. As long as they bring something in that's, defines to us what they're trying to do and the impact it has. We've allowed hand sketches before. They just, we're not trying to make someone jump through hoops they don't need to jump through. And I think I think that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah,
We
and I
don't
think
want
I mean I talk because people know I do zoning for work, and I'll talk to people just like family or whatever, and then they'll show me something in their bylaw. They just get so mad because they see in the bylaws. And I'm like, it's not my fault. I didn't write that. But I can see someone again going for a shed or something that, just like the normal homeowner wants to do some little thing on their property. They open the bylaws, they see this that they need like a stormwater management plan to put in a shed. And, I mean, hope maybe that isn't, hopefully they don't get too mad, but I know there's a type who would get really mad about having to do any
Yeah,
of that.
well, I mean,
And even if the
obviously
board
some-
waives
it's
it,
not- Yeah, that's not something we're looking to, it doesn't even get referred to planning out of the building department.
yeah,
So that isn't even something we'd address.
yeah.
Unless
get the
someone
gist.
was, putting a pool cabana wrong where they were added a bathroom or something like
Yeah.
that, then someone might push that over to planning. But other than that, it's we wouldn't require. So we just
Yeah.
need to clean these up. And I'm all for making it easier for the applicant, not more difficult for the applicant. I mean, most property owners in town that are doing something with their property are taxpayers, and they have a right to utilize their land. So we don't have to make this caustic effort and cost them thousands of dollars to do these plans that are unnecessary for us,
Yeah. So I think this is a good spot. We'll definitely try to clean. So we don't need to talk about it tonight, but I sent out to the committee. There's like a reorganized version of this that I put together that kind of tried to split out administrative and standard site plan review. And we also have the West Brookfield approach. Bill, if you want to send any towns you've liked, that might be helpful.
I'm going to do a deeper dive this
Yeah.
week, and I will send them to you. I'll send them to Jack, Dylan, and you and Jane.
Cool.
I won't share it
Before-
with you, the entire committee,
Yeah.
because that'd be deliberation. We don't want that.
Does anyone else have any before we move on? I think the next step, we're going to talk about scheduling the next meeting, but does anyone else have any thoughts before we wrap up the meeting?
Oh, let's take a hard look at this. I think I understand what people are talking about.
Yeah, and for guys who haven't been involved in zoning before, like maybe I know Ann has, I know Lonnie has. Fran, you're probably new to the zoning environment. Some of these bylaws were written so long ago, they're outdated now, and they're just not prudent to what we're trying to achieve. It's one of the reasons why I got this grant and got this committee together, was so we can make these bylaws more prudent for the town of Mendon and for the people. So that's all I have to say, but I'll do some research. I'll send some out. If anybody else sees anything out there that they like,
Yeah.
I go to towns similar to Mendon. I've looked at Groton before, Air. Like I said, I'm Mendon, Upton and Hopedale. But I try to find as many towns as I can that kind of reflect, Mendon, like Mendon. So, and usually you get a good sample. So I'll look some of those up over the next week, and I'll send them to you.
Cool. If there's no other comments, I guess we'll schedule our next meeting. Just an update. I don't know if people have been getting the emails about like the remote meeting thing potentially changing. It looks like the Senate, so the House passed a bill on Monday to extend basically the status quo on remote meetings another 2 years. And it's going to be taken up by the Senate on Thursday. So I think so the concern was that at the end of March, we would not be able to meet. We would need an in-person quorum to meet, which I think would not be viable. So it looks like, so I'm going to continue as normal, and we'll set up a remote meeting. It looks like, so the next date in 2 weeks is April 1st. And obviously we'll let you know if there's a hiccup with that, but it seems like everything's proceeding. The governor will probably sign that once it gets passed. Every town wants to continue with this, so it would be really silly
I think,
to
to be
stop it.
honest with you, I think they should make it permanent. I don't think this should be
Yeah.
something that
And
becomes a political fire. I mean, I use
Yeah.
it in my business. I mean, I've got
Yeah.
30 guys in the field who work for me.
Yeah.
And I hold these remote meetings with 30 people on them and they go pretty well.
Yeah.
And I just,
Yeah, it's always a little funny when we know it's going to get passed, but we're waiting for a few weeks for the state house to do anything, and just
Well,
saying, okay, well, maybe in a month we're gonna have to find a meeting room and or something
yeah,
like
well,
that.
we're
So
always, you always, I don't know,
yeah,
government can screw things up for certain.
yeah. So I
All
think
right,
the next
so
meeting
April
we'll do
1st.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we'll table this discussion until April 1st.
Yeah, and I think
and,
we'll get the committee by I guess it would be March 28th. By the end of next week, we'll get you. I mean, we'll be working off of that reorganized version I put together. Jack, Dylan, Jane, and I will review that and put together an edit. Yeah, and Jack and Dylan, if before we meet next week, if you want to send over any notes on that, just so we can kind of get a head start, and I would appreciate it.
Okay.
yeah, all right, so we'll plan for April 1st. As the next meeting, 6 PM, once again, online, remote. And I only need one more, oh, we can vote to adjourn. I guess we're just gonna have to adjourn and,
Motion to adjourn.
See you later.
all
Good
right,
night.
guys.
Enjoy the weather. Bye.
Thank
Take it easy.